Kicking off the show tonight, we're going to talk a little recruiting update as we lead most shows with recruiting, Jordan. Everybody knows Clemson's success so far in the 2026 class. We got the upcoming official visit weekend coming very soon. Got a lengthy list of guys already committed to coming to that weekend. A lot of uncommitted guys that we are still beating that recruiting trail for and trying to get them to commit, along with a mix of guys who are already committed who will be on campus to possibly persuade some of those uncommitted individuals to committing to the Tigers. So, Jordan, tell us what is new on the recruiting trail. What are some updates from some of these guys that Clemson is still kind of in the market for?
Yeah, as we kind of gear up towards this big official visit weekend, there have been multiple Clemson coaches out on the road, doing their due diligence in recruiting. You've seen a few Clemson commits getting visits, like Shavar Young got a visit from Mike Reed today. Ben Boulware he's been, if you guys follow Ben Boulware on Twitter and you kind of just and see what like his whereabouts, he's always up in the morning recruiting, like early in the morning, getting up at 6 a.m. Multiple Clemson coaches were in Spartanburg today for a big recruiting camp / you get what I'm saying. One of the biggest in the state of South Carolina. And I believe there are about 50 guys, current, for this current class to the next class that were in attendance. This is a really, really important time for Clemson recruiting. They're about to, start gearing up, obviously not just for this 2026 class and getting those guys in the boat, but they're already looking at that 2027 class. I think, especially in the state of South Carolina, this is going to be a really, really big year, the 2027 class. I mean, when you think of guys like Nate Carson and Sequel Patterson, like these are guys that Clemson is you're probably going to see them get offers here in the next month. Obviously Clemson likes to offer their junior targets in June. So you will definitely, start to see those guys start to come out. But in other news for the 2026 class, obviously the big news coming up on Friday, we talked about him last week, is Polo Anderson, safety from Dorman. Clemson feels really good about where, they stand with him. They felt good for a while. They've had the momentum for a while. I don't get any signs that that's going to change. So he's committing. He's announcing his commitment on Friday. So you guys be in tune for that, because I think this is a big this could be potentially a big commitment for Clemson for a number of reasons. I mean, it's maintaining your foothold and your pipeline in the state. Dorman is a school that if you're Clemson, you never want to lose that. Dorman High School is one of the biggest and most prominent football programs in the state of South Carolina. You never want to lose ties to that. You never want to seize control of that to the team in Columbia, South Carolina. So it's important that even though Clemson is certainly a more national recruiting program, and South Carolina certainly has been emphasizing in-state guys a lot and have won their fair share of battles, I think you still have to maintain some foothold, especially in your area. I mean, when you don't want guys from the Spartanburg and Greenville area, going to South Carolina that, really, really good football players. So I think this is important, keeping a guy that is in your backyard home. And so we'll see. But like I said, I think Clemson feels really good about where they stand with him. On the defensive line front, Bryce Perry White, still the big main target for Clemson on the defensive line. He's been primarily recruited by Nick Eason, but he recently got visited by Nick Eason and Chris Rumpf. It kind of tells you kind of what they're kind of putting on the full court press here. I definitely think a commitment is probably down the pipeline. I definitely think he wants to, be committed before the summer ends. So, you're starting to hit that home stretch in that recruitment. Like I said, there are a lot of things in Clemson's favor in that recruitment. I think that's one you absolutely need to win. I think if I had to list him on the biggest priority targets, regardless of position on the board, I think he would be number one. And he also recently just got his 5th star from 24/7 Sports. So would be nice to add a 5-star to your class, and now that's got me thinking about the rankings, which I tell you guys not to pay attention to too much, because sometimes it'll make you mad, sometimes it'll make you happy. There were a couple of Clemson commits that got bumps that I was happy about, and certainly ones that got some steep drops, from 24/7 Sports that I wasn't happy about. But don't worry about that too much. But like I said, for optics, it's nice to add a 5-star, and I'm always happy for the kid when they kind of get that recognition. They get to put that 5th star in their bio or whatever, even though it ultimately doesn't matter. The player is the player, and but I think Bryce Perry-White is a 5-star talent. So for the take that for what it's worth. So I feel like it's deserved in this case. So yeah, need to win that recruitment, and we'll kind of see how it goes, down the way. On the offensive line, Clemson is still, surveying their options. They want to add they want to add 2 more offensive linemen. Obviously, the big name is Carter Scruggs. That's still out there. And, of course, that's not including guys like Leo Delaney, Cannon Pickett. But Clemson definitely wants to add another, offensive lineman to the mix. Matt Luke recently offered Fletcher Turk, I believe, high 3-star offensive lineman, a guy that hasn't been playing offensive line very long. I believe he was only 220 pounds this time last year. A name to watch for sure. With the aforementioned guys, I think probably trending elsewhere, the Leo Delaney's, the Cannon Pickett's, the Darius Gray's. So I think, this is a timely offer while you're waiting on, while you're anticipating you won't land, the guys I mentioned. And if you can land Carter Scruggs and Fletcher Turk, I think that would be a nice close to the offensive line class. So that's kind of my. I don't usually do notes for these. So if you guys have any questions about any other commits or any targets, feel free to drop them in the chat.